Shauna mentioned, letting go is one of the things that a lot of teachers grapple with as they are heading into service learning. So thanks so much to those people who are willing to let go and experience some new relationships here today. One of the other things that we do besides networking at ECSL is we try to talk about best practices in service learning. And one of the most beneficial things that I've learned from being an educator and experiencing service learning is that you can hand over the answers to students more than I ever knew when I first started teaching. So instead of providing the answers and providing definitions for our students can actually take ownership of defining things for themselves. And so we want to give you that service learning experience here today. One of the questions that came up at the Spring Expo had to do with the differences between community service and service learning. And we thought that would be a good place to start since there's varying levels of experience here in the room around service learning. So we are going to embark on an experience in defining the difference between community service and service learning. What we're going to ask you to do is use the posters that are here on your table. It's into a T-chart. It's divided into CS for community service and SL for service learning. And we want you to take some time at your table to have a discussion about what does community service and what does service learning look like at our schools. And we're going to ask you to use the Post-its that are on your table to represent, on one side, community service, and on the other side, service learning. And this idea, this concept comes from some of these questions like this that came up at the Spring Expo. How do we develop authentic service learning when the mindset for some is community service at our schools? Or said another way, how can we address that service learning and community service are separate entities, but they often are mixed up? So we're letting go, we're not going to tell you. We're going to let you define for yourselves what does community service and service learning look like. It's up to you how you want to represent that on your Post-its together as a group. And we'll spend probably about 5 minutes or so letting you get your ideas on the paper. Have at it. We're not done with this process yet. Part of the learning process is constructing knowledge and then maybe even trying to deconstruct it and reconstruct it again to learn even more. So the next stage of this is that even though you've done all this hard work to put your Post-its and define community service and service learning, we're actually going to ask you to take all of your Post-its off and place them mixed up on the bottom of your poster. Following that, you are going to switch teams. The two back tables are going to flip-flop, the two middle tables are going to flip-flop, and the two front tables are going to flip-flop. And your next instruction is to visit someone else's poster and see if you can put them all back. See if you can reconstruct somebody else's ideas about what is community service and service learning. Partnership we're talking about. I think what I love about this activity is that it shows two things that are so wonderful about service learning in general. And one I already mentioned, which is building your own definitions and building your own meaning. And that's one of the great things that service learning can do. Hopefully this is an activity that you might even be able to take away and do with a social issue that you're experiencing in your classroom and try to help students build meaning through something like this. And the other thing that service learning offers is that definitions can change. And so I think, and also that things are open to interpretation. Because you had to go somewhere else and interpret somebody else's work. And I think that when you're out in the real world and you're experiencing things in real time, that there is that opportunity to understand that yes, you can see things in a variety of different ways and things are open to interpretation, and it's that kind of critical thinking that is so powerful with service learning. One of the things that may have come up under the service learning category is that something about methodology, or that there's a process instead of it being something that's one-off, which a lot of times people talk about as being part of community service, that it's something that's one-off, versus service learning that's something that is an experience or a process. We're not going to go into it today, but oftentimes we do. At our ECSL meetings, we talk about the stages of service learning and the process that you engage in when you decide to embark on service learning. So we have for you, just to represent that, in case you're new to it, a poster over here to the side, the 5 stages of service learning, and this is adapted from Catherine Berger-Kay, who's one of the leaders in developing curriculum for service learning, and who's an advisor for ECSL. So we invite you to take a minute to explore the 5 stages of service learning if you have time to look over those posters, and the more experiences you have at ECSL, the more you'll get to know what the stages of service learning are.